Hello guys, the last class we have started new topic deadlock, right? And in the last class we have discussed deadlock, what is deadlock and what is the condition of deadlock, how it is happening and why it is happening, right? And how we can find deadlock in the system. We have just introduced it using RAG, resource allocation graph, right? And what OS is doing against it, right? For handling the deadlock or for ensuring deadlock free environment in the system, what operating system will do, it simply create a system table, or it maintains a system table, or we sometimes address it as system pool, in which it maintains the resources and their status, right? So that whenever a new request for any resource come, it will just look up the table for that particular resource. If that status of that particular resource is free, then it will allocate to it to requesting process, else it will forcefully make that requesting process to wait until that requesting resource will not get freed, right? Freed from engagement process, right? So till this point we have studied in the last lecture. In this lecture we will first cover the conditions for deadlock, right? What it means, what it means conditions for deadlock. Necessary conditions for deadlock, right? Deadlock. So we have some set of conditions. If they happens, or if they appears at simultaneously at the same time in the system, then only we can be sure that this is the deadlock condition in the system, right? So there are four conditions that must hold simultaneously for a deadlock to occur. Those are: first one is mutual exclusion, right? Second one is hold and wait, right? Third one condition is is third one is no preemption. No preemption. And fourth one is circular wait. So these are the four conditions. If they happen, or they appears, or they hold simultaneously, then we can say that there is a deadlock in the system. So what are these four conditions? First one is mutual exclusion, second one is hold and wait, third one is no preemption, and the fourth one is circular wait, right? So what it means, if the system is having mutual exclusion, right? If there is a mutual exclusion, then there may be the chance that deadlock will happen, right? That means, what it means, it means that only one process can execute its critical section at a single moment of time. That means that particular shared resource is non-shareable. That's why this mutual exclusion condition is happening, right? That means if we have P1 and P2 and there is a shared resource R1 and we have mutual exclusion in the system, that what it means, it simply means, let us say P1 will use R1 first and then P2 will use. Let's say if we are having mutual exclusion in the system, it directly means that this resource R1 is non-shareable now. Non-shareable, right? Non-shareable because you cannot share it at the same time. So what it means, that you are making P2 to wait for some time until unless this R2 gets freed, right, from P1, process P1, right? So if the mutual exclusion is happening in the system, that means some process will wait for the resources, and which may or may not leads to deadlock, right? If mutual exclusion is appearing in the system, then there may be or may not be the chance appearing in the system unique if this mutual exclusion is appearing separately, right, without having old and wait preemption and circular wait, then it means that there may or may not be deadlock. We cannot say that, right? If it is on the only condition which is satisfying, which is mutual exclusion, then we cannot say that this will lead to deadlock definitely. We may or may not, it may not be may not be deadlock, right? But yes, if these four conditions, all four conditions hold simultaneously, then only we can confirm that this is a deadlock, right? So along with mutual exclusion, hold and wait condition must be satisfied. That means if in the system P1 is holding, P1 is P1 is holding resource R1 and it is demanding, it is waiting for the resource R2, then this condition could lead to deadlock. How? Let us say that P1 is having or holding R1, right, and it is waiting for R2, but R2 is already engaged by P2, right, and it is R P2 is demanding or waiting for R1, then this loop will create deadlock for sure, right? And until and unless P2 and P1, one of them will not release any one process, that means this condition will be true for indefinite time. That's why we can say that it could be a deadlock, but we cannot say that it will always be a deadlock. Maybe this locking will be there for some time, right? So what is happening here, that one process is holding some resources which are the need of any other waiting process, right? And with holding the process, it is also waiting a resource which is engaged by that particular waiting process, right? That's why if this happens in the system frequently, that then this may lead to deadlock condition, right? This may lead to deadlock condition. And as we said above, if this only condition is appearing in the system separately, then we cannot say that this will be we cannot say that this will be deadlock for sure, right? But if this condition also holds with these all rest of three conditions, then this is sure that this will be a deadlock in the system, right? Now come to the third part, third condition, which is no preemption. No preemption, what it means? That means there is no preemption in the system. What it means that you cannot, we cannot preempt any process, whether it is running or waiting, right? So that means if you cannot prompt any process, see in the hold and wait example, see p1 p1 was holding r1 resource and waiting for r2. Similarly, p2 is holding r2 resources and waiting for, this is wait and this is hold, right? And waiting for r1 resource which is engaged by p2 p1, right? See, we can break this loop if and only one of these processes, either P1 or P2, will release the resource it is holding, right? Let us say P2 has released our R2 for some time. That means this R2 will be open for P1. Now the loop will be breaked and P1 will execute their task and terminate it, and after the termination of P1, R2 will gets all its resources, right? So this is this could be happen either both the processes will uh, both the deadlocked processes will communicate or release their resources implicitly, first case. And second case, we forcefully make any process, either P1 and P2, we forcefully make any process to release their resources for some time, right? That means for some time, that means we are explicitly instructing the waiting processes or deadlock processes to release their engaged processes resources for some time, right? That means we are prompting them, preempting them. And if the system has no preemption, means if the system is having no preemption activated, that what it means, we cannot do that, right? Externally we cannot do that. And if we are unable to externally instruct waiting processes to release the resources, what it means, that deadlock will not break at any moment, right? That's why deadlock will be there for sure for the long period of time. So in the system, if no preemption is there, then what it directly means, that we are ensuring the ensuring a deadlock to be happen, right? To be happen, right, guys? So if this no preemption is activated in hold and wait condition and mutual exclusion is there, then we may say that there will be a deadlock if both conditions, all these conditions will hold simultaneously, or will hold at the same time. Now come to the fourth condition, which is circular wait. See, circular wait is simply that is such that, let us say we have P1 this process, P2 process, P3 process, P4 process, right? P1, let us draw a diagram first. What it means by circular wait, you can understand by using this diagram. R1, R2, R3 and R4. Let us this is a circular wait, right? Why? Because P1 is demanding or waiting for R1, and R1 has been engaged by R2, right? And R2 is demanding P2 is demanding R2, and R2 has been engaged by P3, right? And in the similar way, P3 is demanding R3, and R3 is engaged by P4, and P4 demanding R4, and R4 is engaged by P1. So there is a circular wait for all the processes in the line, right? So this type of situation is called circular wait. So whenever this condition appears, that means there will be deadlock. So separately, if these four conditions hold separately, then we cannot be sure that there will be deadlock. But yes, if these all conditions will are there at the same time, or they all four holds simultaneously at the same time in the system, then we can say that there is a 90% chance of a deadlock being created in the system. That's why what it means that deadlock has happened to the system, or there will be a chance, 90% chance of deadlock to be happen in the system. So what we can do, how to avoid these, what we can do, we there are how operating system will handle, or how operating system handles deadlock. Let us understand it. These are the four necessary conditions which needs to hold these needs to hold simultaneously simultaneously then only we could be sure, or we might be sure about deadlock in the system, deadlock to be happened in the system, right? So remember, we already discussed it. You need to be very careful before going to further in the topic, right? So now let us discuss how operating system, or what are the techniques, or what how many types of techniques we are having in the system to handle the deadlocks. So whenever we are talking about handling deadlock, there will be three methods or methodologies which are being used, or which are being used to handle deadlock in the system. Either it will be in operating system, or any other real-time system, or any other working environment. If there is deadlock, then we are having only three handling techniques. First one is deadlock prevention. We can prevent deadlock to be happen. Second, we can avoid deadlock. And third one, we can detect and remove deadlock, right? Deadlock. So what it means, deadlock prevention means, in the deadlock prevention techniques, we will try to we will try to prevent the deadlock to be happen. So how we can prevent the deadlock? What we can do, as we know that there are four necessary conditions to be happen simultaneously. So if we know that if all these four conditions holds together, then only deadlock will be there. So what we can do to prevent the deadlock, we can we can uh, we can make any one of these condition false, any one of these condition false, or we will try to set any one of these four condition out of these four conditions to set false. If we are able to do that, then we can say that deadlock could be prevented, right? So in the prevention technique we will try to set false, or will try to make any one of these necessary conditions to be false, so that all four could not be happen at the same time. And if these four will not happen, or these four will not appear at the same time, then deadlock could not be happen, right? That not will not be happen, right? So this is so these type of techniques is called deadlock prevention techniques, right? And in the avoidance, in second handling technique, in the second deadlock handling technique, we will avoid deadlock to be happen. In the prevention, what we were doing, we were simply making any one of these four requirement to be set false, right? But in the avoidance, what we will assume, it will assume simply, it is assume simply that what uh, we can do, that we can avoid deadlock only in one condition: when we know that there are n number of processes. If there are n number of processes and there is n square demand of those processes in advance, if we know these demands of upcoming processes in the system in advance, then only we can try to avoid deadlock by using, or by creating some mechanism which will result to the to a sequence of processes, or list of processes, such that if we run these processes in that order, then there will be no deadlock, right? But for generating this type of list, or this type of sequence, we need to know the demand of every resource type in the system by every processes, upcoming processes in the system in advance, right? So if somehow we are able to identify, or somehow we are able to calculate the maximum demand by the processes for it, for a defined time, then only we can generate a sequence of the process. And this sequence is, simply the sequence of the process, uh, in our on which order, if we execute those processes, then there will be no deadlock. That means we are trying to avoid deadlock to be happen by using safe sequence of by using safe by generating safe sequence, right? Sequence of the processes in the system, right? Now, third one we have detect and remove deadlock, right? So when we are saying detect and remove, that means we are saying that we will not prevent, we will not avoid deadlock, we will let them happen. The assumption is we will let them happen, and then if once they happen, we will detect them first, and after detecting we will remove them, right? So for your information, what I could say, we are studying these techniques, but I could say that in the condition in the first two techniques, OS will not do anything regarding deadlock prevention and deadlock avoidance, right? But OS operating system generally use third method, which is detect and remove deadlock, right? But really, in real, if we say, then we can say that operating system has nothing to do with these deadlocks. It has no methods or no real-time methods, or it has not implemented any methods which can prevent, avoid deadlock in the system, or 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 it will not do anything regarding deadlock, handling deadlock, right? Why is it so? Because all three techniques needs large steps to be followed to perform these all three handling techniques, right? So if OS will be engaged for these steps, then OS will not perform efficiently. OS performance, or we can say OS performance, will be degraded. Why? Because all the time, most of the OS time will be invested in the steps followed to perform these all actions, right? To prevent or to avoid and detect and remove. That's why OS don't do anything regarding deadlock. It will simply let it let deadlock be happen, and after happening the deadlock, it will try to remove, only try to remove, not exactly always, but only try to remove those deadlocks, right? If possible. If no, it is not possible, then it cannot do anything, right? So, but we have to understand these. So we are studying these topics, right? So let us discuss them one after another, right? So let us discuss first. Let us discuss first deadlock prevention, right? As I already mentioned, how we can do that, how we can prevent and deadlock to be happen, by preventing one of four necessary condition to hold, right? Now let us understand how we can prevent each condition out of those four, right? So first one we have mutual exclusion, right? So for avoiding mutual exclusion, what we have to do, we have to convert all non shareable resources. We have to convert all non shareable resources to shareable resources. Shareable resources, right? Why we are saying that? As we already discussed above, in the mutual exclusion, what we are doing, we are simply making a resource non-shareable. That means we are simply using them one after another. Both process cannot use them. So that means that process is non-shareable in case of mutual exclusion, right? So to avoid or to prevent mutual exclusion, what we have to do, we have to convert on non-shareable resources to shareable resources, right? That means, for example, shareable resources means, example of shareable resource is make read only file, reading only, right? And but the problem is here, first problem is here, if we want to do that, we have to remember the problem is, we have to remember that some, not all the processes are, not all, not all the processes, sorry, processes nahi, resources, not all the resources can be converted into shareable, right? Because some process cannot be converted into the shareable, right? Example is writing. if if writing is happening, we cannot share it at the time when the writing is happening in the system, right? So first problem is there when we are preventing mutual exclusion is that not all the resources can be converted into shareable, right? Second problem we have for preventing is that mutual exclusion is need of process synchronization, right? As we already studied in the process synchronization topic, then that mutual exclusion is the first necessary condition or necessary need of a process synchronization. If we simply disturb mutual exclusion, what it means, we are simply denying or creating undesirable results in the system, because we have many cooperating processes in the system, right? So we must have process synchronization there, and for the process synchronization we must, mutual exclusion must be there. And if for deadlock handling, if we are preventing mutual exclusion to be happen, what it means, we are simply ignoring process synchronization. And if we are ignoring process synchronization, it directly means that we are creating undesirable results of shared variables, right? So in case of mutual exclusion, we cannot do anything. So finally, in case of mutual exclusion, we cannot do anything, right? Because if we do so, that means there will be undesirable results, right? And we cannot, and for always we cannot convert our non-shareable resources to shareable resources, right? That's why mutual exclusion can't be prevented. So we have to look for other options. So let's check other options. Second one will have hold and wait, right? What it means, hold and wait means, it simply means whenever a process request for a resource, it doesn't hold, it doesn't does not hold any other resource, right? Other resource. So preventing hold and wait means whenever a process requests for a resource, it does not hold any other process, any other resource, right? What means that means we require that each process has to declare each process has to declare all its requirement requirement in the beginning and start and before start and before starting execution, it has to be allocated all its resources resources right. For making hold and wait for preventing hold and wait, we need that whenever a process requests for a resource, it doesn't hold any other resource, right? So for ensuring that, what we simply require that each process which if it when it initiated or it's been created, it has to declare all its requirement in the beginning, right, before starting execution, right? After declaring its resources, it can start execution of its task only if if that particular process has been granted all the or has been allocated all the required resources, right, which it has been declared in the beginning of the execution, right? But there is a problem in this case. It can do so, but sometimes it is not possible for a process to declare all the requirement in the beginning, right? Because some processes demands the resources at runtime, right? That means the problem with the problem with this preventing the hold and wait will leads to low resource utilization. Why we are saying that? Because you are saying that process must declare its resources in the beginning. But see, if some a number of processes are there which needs services from printer, that means the printing services will are required at the last of the execution, right, in the last of the execution. That means if this is happening, that means there will be low resource utilization, right? Low resource printer is used at the end. That means the resource printer will be utilized very low, right? Means low resource utilization will be there because we cannot share the printer before asking, right? That means every process which has printing job, that means it will require printer or IO drive device at the last or at the end of the code. That means until it will not get printer, that particular process will not get printer. That means it will not get terminated, and once it will not get terminated, that means it will not release the engaged resources. That means it has to wait for long duration. That means the resources engaged by that waiting process, waiting for printer, has been underutilized, will be underutilized. That's why we are saying that if we will do so, that means there will be low resource utilization, right? Or secondly, as we discussed, that waiting process will starve. So there will be chance of starvation always whenever many resources whenever many resources engaged by one process, right? So we can remove, or we can prevent hold and wait only if a process declare its requirement in the beginning, right? Now come to the third condition, which is no preemption. No preemption. So no preemption means if we have to avoid no preemption, what we have to do, we have to simply allow preemption. So preemption, what we can say, preemption of resources, right? Understand the terms. Preemption of resources, not processes. Preemption of resources should be allowed, right? To prevent no preemption condition, we must allow preemption of resources. So in the other word, we can say preemption of resources should be allowed. What it means? It simply means if preempt if process is holding some resources some resources and request another another resource that that can't be immediately allocated to it, then all resources currently held by process are preempted preempted right? That means if a process is holding some resources and it is demanding some other resources which are being held by other processes, or which cannot be granted at that point in time, that means that we will do, we will preempt that particular processes for those resources, right? What we are saying, that we are ensuring that until and unless all the required resources of a process is not available, till then that particular process cannot start execution of its task, right? And secondly, this preemption, this preemption is done in implicit manner. Implicit manner. Right? That means those engaged processes has to preempt by themselves only, right? So by what we are saying when we are saying implicit manner, it simply means if process request some resource, it needs to check if available, right? Available. So for ensuring preemption, what it has to check, it has to do a process. Whenever a process requests some resources, first check the availability of that resource first, right? If not available, if not available, then check. If not available, then check if they are held by process which is waiting from waiting for some additional resources. If so, if so, we what we will do, we will preempt desired resources. We will preempt desired resources and allocate them to requesting process, right? If not available, in case of not availability, we have to check that if they are held by process which is waiting for some additional resources. If so, we will preempt those resources and allocate them to requesting process, right? And if all of these above, if of all of above condition is not true, above cases are false, then simply that particular process, or we can say a requesting process, must wait. Requesting process has to wait, right? So once we got the demand from any process, and if those resources are held by any other process which are also which is also waiting for other resources which are held by some other process, then what we can do, we can simply um, we can simply preempt desired resources, or we can forcefully preempt that process to release those resources, and once those resources has been released by that particular process, we will make them available or we will allocate them to requesting process. But if this is not the case, these all cases false, there is no availability, and if and even those processes are not held by any waiting process, then only the requesting process must wait in case of preventing no preemption criteria, right? Now come to the last preventing condition is, which is circular wait. Circular wait. So to do this, to do this, we impose a total hierarchical hierarchical ordering of all resource type, right? What we are saying that if we simply provide the ordering of all the resources available in the system, and we somehow imposes or we somehow ensure that all every resource which are every process will demand that particular resource in increasing order of hierarchy, right? Then only we can break this condition. We can break looping. Let us say we have P1, P2 and P3, and what the circular weight is, simply R2, R3. R2, R3, this is circular weight, right? Right. So if we somehow break this loop by using some hierarchical ordering of resource type, then only we can prevent circular weight. So for preventing circular weight, we must break anything from here or from here or from here, from anywhere, right? So what we assume, we'll say that P1 will only request for R1 without holding R3, right? Or in other word, we can say it is required, or we can say it is required that processes can only request the required resources in an increasing order of enumeration, right? Or we can say functions of resource type Rj be greater than from function of resource type Ri, right? So we are ensuring that a process, if a process is demanding a resource, which is not in the ordered way, then there will be chance of circular weight. So if we somehow ensure or impose hierarchical ordering of all resources type, that means if P1 is requesting resource type, then it will first request R1, then R2, then R3. It will not request R3, then R1, and then R2, because if it is requesting in ordered order of enumeration, then there will be less chance of circular weight, right? And if it is ordering randomly, and we are unable to ensure hierarchical order of those resource type, then there will be high chance of of circular weight being created in the system. So right, so avoiding circular weight means simply imposing total hierarchical ordering of all resource type. And if and what we require, that the process can only request the required resources in an increasing order of enumeration, right? So this is how we can avoid circular weight. So this is what we have understood now, that in this class we have understood that what are the necessary conditions for the deadlock, and what are the different techniques we are having for handling the deadlock, which is named as prevention, avoidance, and detection and removal techniques. And after these we have discussed in this class only deadlock prevention technique. So I think I made it clear to you guys, and that's all for this class. If you have doubt, you may ask, and we will discuss deadlock avoidance technique in detail in the next class, right? So thank you guys.